even though when my kids did wrong, one of the things I had to learn through what I went through in my life is listen. Now, I'm still going to discipline you, but I had to listen.
Yeah.
And I had to teach. Just because they did something wrong don't mean they knew that what they did was wrong.
We didn't have that option. We didn't have that option at all. It was
as soon as I touched the cookie jar, whether I could touch it or not.
Yeah.
Damn.
What up, man? Listen, welcome to another edition of A Father's Heart podcast with Cole and Shon and George. But listen, Cole is not here tonight, man, but we have our brother back again. You know, last week it was a struggle. We were on the struggle bus, and, we don't normally have to operate on the struggle bus. You know, we ride around in those nice, we gonna call it those nice bus where we could just ride through the hood, pick people up and keep going. But last week, bro, we was on the straight up struggle bus. So Kev.
We back.
I can hear you and I can see you.
I'm here.
You here in the flesh? That's what I'm talking about. George, what's poppin', man?
What's going on, man? It's been a day.
It's been a day.
We about to do what we do.
Listen, man, you the therapist, as you know. I always say, you be therapizing people. You know what I mean? You be therapizing, so you have to therapize the people. So you know what? We gonna let our man therapize us. That's what's gonna happen. We gonna get fed today. We gonna let him therapize.
I appreciate it, Kev.
I got it.
He has been a thriving force in my life for a very long time. He knows what to do.
So listen, man, we are definitely honored and excited to have Kev on with us again. And so listen, man, we are going to just pick up right where we left off last time. And I'm quite sure some things changed since then. I mean, life keep on going and it doesn't slow down for anyone. So Kev, last week, man, you started tapping in and you was talking about your dad. And I think it was triggered because George was talking about the impact of your father. And I don't even know if George fully unpacked, his thoughts on it, right? And so, I would ask George to continue to unpack what you were saying, the influence that his dad had on you. And then that way, Kev, you can just continue to flow from there. And so all the people that's tuning in, man, we appreciate you being with us tonight, man. Please share because this brother is going to drop a bunch of jewels, man. So, George, could you finish your thought? Oh, you was talking about his dad last week, man.
Well, I don't know exactly what thought that was. Like you said, a lot can happen in a week, but it's easy to talk about Kev's father. And I'll just start from the time we met. I'm just going to tell a brief story because I really want Kev to get in there. I'll never forget at the time, I was maybe 21 or something. Like I was 20 or 21. I was newly married, newly father, and, different things of that nature. And my wife actually grew up with the family. And I never forget her coming home one day and she said something to me. She was like, I saw my Uncle Kevelin today. And I was like, okay, that's nice. And she's like, I got to tell you something. And I was like, what's up? She was like, I told him I was going to church. And I was like, okay, we'll go to church. And then she was like, well, I told him you was coming with me. And you know what I'm saying? And at the time, my mind ain't on that. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother podcast where I was at the time. And so she brought me there, and you got to understand.
I wonder where your mind was. But
we'll talk about that another time. Shon, you're going to make me lose my train of thought.
All right.
But seriously, though, at the time I came, and I never forget the first night I came. And at the time, Kev will know what I'm talking about. They was in the back building. And I came in, and his dad was at the mic, and we came. I wasn't there for 10 minutes, and he said, hey, Renisha, this over the mic, this doing service. And he looked at me, and he was like, I see wedding bells. You know what I'm saying? And at the time, I ain't thinking about, marriage or anything like that. So anyway, we would just visit. But there's one particular time in particular that always sticks out. I I asked for a meeting. This is before we had joined and everything like that. I asked him, could I meet with him and talk to him? At the time, I was still kind of lost, trying to figure it out, no identity or anything like that. And so I got there, and the church was open, but he wasn't there yet. And I stayed outside. And so he got up, and he got there, and he said to me, he was like, well, why you didn't go in? And I said, well, if I went in and something came up missing, I didn't want nobody to look at me. And he looked at me and he said, I don't see you that way. And you got to understand something. Right around the age of, I'm 20 or 19 or something, but around the age of 14, I kind of went off on the deep end. You know how, most church kids have that rebellious stage. And so he was the first man to talk to me like a man and respect me like a man at that time. Because a lot of people that I had grew up with that knew me since I was a kid, they had heard about the things that I was getting into. And so when they would see me, they would go the other way. And I'm sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. But when they would see me, they would go the other way. I remember vividly, I'll be walking up the street and somebody who was raised with me, like at church or with my family, even my family, I'll be walking up the street and I'll see them see me and they'll keep going and not speak or something like that. So in my head, that's how people that knew me saw me. And so when he said that, that was like just a vital moment in my life. And that's when I made my decision. Like, this is where I'm finna have my family at the church. I'll never forget it. He looked at me. He said, I don't see you that way. And that, it shook me up. And Kev, go, because I'm getting tore up.
George, I appreciate you sharing that. So Kev, from that standpoint, knowing that, and we talking about, father's heart, right? And that's the whole thing behind it, man. And that showed, George painted a picture of how your dad impacted his life, right? Mm-hmm. And I know growing up in church, you had to share your father with many people, many Georges, many Shons, many Coles, right? And so my question to you is, how does your father having a heart like that impact the way that you father today?
Good question. First, thank you all for having me on. And secondly, happy anniversary to my wife of 22 years today. We celebrating 22 years. We 22 and 0. That's what I keep saying.
Listen,
let's go.
And you on the Father's Heart podcast?
Happy anniversary, Thomas.
Let's go.
Hey, so we got some things scheduled. We gonna make it happen for each other. But so I love you, honey. But I to answer you, that's a really good question. I had selfish moments about all of that. Those times, when I never, I had a good upbringing. When I hear other people's stories, I don't have those. I don't have as much frightening moments like that because my parents decided early in life to get into the church. So, but that was also I would say that was also some of the reason why that sharing was so difficult, because he was everybody's father.
He was.
Right. And he was everybody's, everybody called him dad, right? Pastor Jones wasn't really the name. It was dad, and so everybody called him dad. And I was okay with my friends and, folks out that came to the church and all of that, being my dad being a father to them, because he just attracted men and families that were in need of love. He just attracted that. And you were never too young or too far away to get a steak from him, right?
Great.
And y'all all understand, if somebody making you a steak dinner, you matter, right?
Yeah,
my dad would make a steak dinner for whoever it is. It didn't matter who you were. And George, I'm sure you took part in that type of love.
Yo, is he the reason why George eat raw, semi-raw steaks today?
He might be, because I'm the same. my state
Absolutely
is,
disgusting. I'm
You
sorry,
need
I
to
didn't want to
get
distract you,
you
but
need
that's
to get
absolutely
cultured, bro.
disgusting.
You
my
need
my,
to you
my
need to get
steak
cultured.
my steak is medium rare. Period.
Yep.
Like that's how I eat my steak, medium rare.
Yep.
And if you're eating your steak any other way higher than that, you're not
You
tasting.
preaching, pastor? You
You're
preaching
not
now?
tasting the steak.
I need you to stay focused.
You might as well eat a hamburger.
I need you to stay focused.
I'm just saying.
I need you to stay focused.
All right, brother. I'm back. So, so that sharing was difficult in many stages of life because um, I was a part of the share. I was a part of the share. So when they got dad, they got me too. And so I'm young and haven't been able to really live my teenage years outside of showing up to church Tuesday, Friday, Sunday, choir rehearsal, praise team rehearsal, kids rehearsal. That was my life. I know what Sadie Hawkins dance looked like. I didn't go to that. I didn't get a chance to go to that. Because I was in that space of we got to do this. We got to do this. We got to be there for folks. We got to. So my life was really. I mean, my sins was in the church. You know what I'm saying? Like what I did was in the church because I couldn't go nowhere else. I couldn't go nowhere else. There was nowhere else to go because I wasn't going to the club. I wasn't going. And so I didn't have those opportunities because I was being what he needed me to be for other people. Now, there was joy in that, but there was also sadness in that because when I needed my dad to kind of hear me and understand my heart, it was more, man, come on. Man, come on. So when I talked last week about, you need me to stop?
No, I just wanted to interject. I just wanted to confirm that. Like he was definitely harder on his. Like how some pastors or leaders practice where they give they people a pass or give their kids and stuff a pass. I can attest to he was definitely harder on his children and his family than the rest of them. That's a fact. That's all I wanted to say.
Absolutely, because he grew up with, having the mindset of all these people's blood is on my hands.
Yeah.
Right. And so you a part of me. If my son not acting right, then how can I tell the other people to act right? And so that was a burden for me. Hardest time I had, with my father during the time of Bountiful Love, and starting Bountiful Love and moving into Bountiful Love. And the first, I would say, 10 years was very difficult for me because I was still young and I'm wanting to live, but I had to do church.
Yeah.
And I had to do church. So church wasn't what I wanted to do. And because I had to do that, I became hypocritical, right? Because you making me do this, I don't want to do it. And everybody used the same testimony. I say sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, that with fire and all that stuff, right? And so you learn to do these things in order to keep this family business or this church going. And you want to make your father proud. Like every man want to make his father proud that has his father in his life and that maybe even don't have his father in his life. And the question is why? But that was the hardest time for me when I was smiling, playing music, teaching music, recording music. It was a hard time. People think, man, Kev, you did all it, you spoiled, you got this and this and that. People don't understand. I would have rather not come to church and have my life because it was hard.
Wow.
It was very difficult. So my young years with my father, absolutely. He wasn't a pastor. Right. And so, going to church, young man or whatever, he was a deacon in the church. I still was at my uncle's church, Superintendent Harold Jones. I give kudos to him. But Superintendent Harold Jones and had to be the minister of music at 14. So understand the mindset that, church, I had to do everything at church. And so on Saturdays, I had to go get a haircut, right? Because I had to be ready for church. And when they had church on Saturdays and I went and got a haircut and I was late, I got in trouble. The car keys got taken. I mean, everything was do this way because you are Deacon Jones' son or Elder Jones' son or Pastor Jones' son, Superintendent Jones' son, Administrative Assistant Jones' son. So that was going to eventually come to a head, and it did, right?
Yeah.
Where as I got older, I'm like, wait a minute, I got to breathe at some point. But I also, and I want to be a testament to, PK kids. I also still loved and wanted to make sure my dad's vision happened. So you torn between two loves, yourself and preparing your purpose in life, and the purpose of trying to support your parent.
And
And
so,
I'm gonna
man, go ahead, please finish that. I'm going to ask you
tell
something.
you, this is the pastor in me. I would tell you that God loves you through all of that, and God doesn't fault you. Which no matter which way you go with that, God is still there to pick you up and help you and help you get through that. So, I don't take back any of the struggle that me and my father had, God rest his soul, because it taught me how to prepare myself from where I am in my career and where I am as the pastor of the church.
So, man, no, that man, I appreciate that. What up, Fahim? What up, baby? So this is the thing, man. Like, a lot of times, preachers' kids do get a bad rap, right?
Ooh,
And and so
yeah, but I
it's
but I also added to that. Well, when you in a religious and I would say a super religious movement, people more are tend to more look at what's wrong with you than what's right with you.
yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And
Yep. And that's good.
what's wrong with you is like the 80-20 rule. What's wrong with you is 20% of you, but what's right with you is 80% of you.
Yeah.
But if like I told the church Sunday, evil communications corrupt good manner. What if you study that, it's really talking about law. The more you talk about law and the more you talk about wrong, that's all people gonna think about. That's all that's gonna be in their mind. And so
So, man, that's good, Cap. So my thing is like, it sounds like your dad had a huge, like you guys had your challenges, right? And I think he was just being a father, and it was through
absolutely,
your lens of how you perceived, that.
yeah.
And so I guess one of my questions is knowing how your father was trying to raise you, what you were experiencing. Is because when we get older, we like, I'll never do that. Or, like, I'm going to make sure I do things differently. So when you looking at how you father today, right? When you look at how you father, how has his influenced your ability to father your children and love your wife?
I I learned what to do and I learned what not to do. And
That's
my
nice.
father was the best teacher of both, right? I God rest his soul. He ran up and down highways for people. He gave his money. He gave dinner money to people. He fixed engines. He spent his hard-earned money. Go ahead.
Whenever I raise my hand, I'm not gonna say much. But whenever I raise my hand, I am just co-signing what he said. That's all I'm doing.
Because you must have been a benefactor of it, huh?
I am 100% a benefactor.
And George is one person, but let's think about at Bountiful Love's peak, we were at about 500 members
Yep.
at that church, and so
Yep.
um, imagine all the men that came in with no jobs,
Yep.
came in with broken relationships, came in, with abuses that they had to deal with, and who did they go to? They went to my dad because he was such a champion of helping people come out of where they are, right? Now everybody wasn't able to come out. He wasn't able to help Eric. He's not God, but
Right.
he did his very best. And so, you know, he drove up and down highways. He gave food. Uh, I'm talking not regular food. I'm talking, like I said earlier, steaks, and he made sure the people that he served was very well taken care of. And so who had to who had to live with that? We did, right? And we were so used to it that it became a part of life to where we started looking for love in other places, not because he meant to do that, not because he meant to do that. And so what has helped me to answer your question is to make sure I pay attention to my children. I pay attention to how they are in school. I remember how when my dad got busy with the church, even though he cared, right? He got older in age. He cared about my schooling, but he didn't check it like, you know, he should have. Why? Because he was busy with 300, 400, 500 people. He was busy. So I'm down there changing my grade. You know what I'm saying? Because that's when we brought the report cards home and you can erase. Come on, y'all know that. Quit playing. Like, okay. So when my report card spelled Eddie, I changed it. I changed it up to
Yes,
Alvin,
sir.
right? You know, so I changed it up, and so um, those type of things taught me. You know what? You did this. Let's make sure that you have a space for your children. Not, I know what I did. I know you're gonna do it. It's have a space with your children to train them early to do homework,
What's
do
that
math.
space? Talk about that space.
Sure. So a space, an opportunity for me to have something to do with their education in a positive way. So when we get home, we do math. We did math games early on. George, I don't know if you remember, we had math tournaments at Linden, right?
I was a math wizard. Of course, I was a math wizard for like 4 years.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
And
yo.
so I made a space to where I took that time with my children early on, and we came to the table and we had the dice out and we playing the game. Not go do your homework. I
Craps.
played. I played right there. You
Oh,
go. I played a part in the homework, and I made time for it. So it was more of Dad, it's homework time. Then get over there and do your homework. Right. So I had to purposely involve myself in their space of learning. I had to purposely do that. Other things I had to purposely do, even though when my kids did wrong, one of the things I had to learn through what I went through in my life is listen. Now, I'm still going to discipline you, but I had to listen.
Yeah.
And I had to teach. Just because they did something wrong don't mean they knew that what they did was wrong.
We didn't
And
have
many
that option
days,
for kids. We didn't
yeah,
have that
and
option at all. It
I
was
didn't
just,
have it out. As
yeah,
soon as I touched the cookie jar,
yeah,
whether I could touch it or not,
yeah.
damn, right? And so I learned what not to do. Do you know that what you just did was wrong? Right? I had to deal with that with my children. Now, when I tell you to do something and you don't do it, you know that what you're doing is wrong. So my children learned, and I'm not saying they was perfect because they not one of them are perfect, but I learned to have a space with my children to try to be preventative.
man.
Right?
So,
So,
man,
so
you
that helped.
said something. You said something really good. So, if people catch this, you said you and both George agreed that the moment you touched the cookie jar, what happened?
That's
Oh,
it. That's it.
you
We're not talking about it. We're not about to like go over it or anything like that. It's on. Like that was the. It was no options. Like you don't talk. You don't
that's
say. You don't explain. You don't. That's not a part of. It's discipline. Straight.
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
I think that what all three of us understand is generations, right? So,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
like I said last week, my dad was a baby boomer. So before him, right, it was Negroes need to be quiet
Yeah.
and
yep.
know their place,
Yep.
right? And then they began to train us. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. You got this one chance after civil rights. You got one chance, or they're gonna
Yep.
throw you away. So baby boomer compared to our generation, we learned from the baby boomer generation and said, I don't want my child to have that type of experience. I want them to know who they are.
And so I
You
want
know,
you to expound on this, right? Because man, I love how y'all saying that, right? So you touch a cookie jar and you get pop, right? But this is
right?
what what was beautiful in that, not in the pop, but
Yeah,
what I pick up out of that is that he was present,
absolutely,
right?
absolutely,
Just think about that. That your dad and you had the opportunity to be corrected, right?
absolutely.
And so I want you to speak about that, right? Because this is the thing, man, the power in his presence. And for when we talking about your dad,
Yeah,
George talked about your dad and his efforts and the things that he did, which revealed his heart, right?
sure.
The things that you're talking about revealed your dad's heart. So when you're talking about, like, yo, I went to grab the cookie jar before anything, I got popped. But what's
Yeah,
powerful in that is that your dad was present. And now,
absolutely,
and so having a dad that's present, twofold question. How do you think that impacted your life by having a dad that's present and your children having that generation? Like you established a way of living, like, yo, it's normal to have fathers in their life. Like they had their granddad. You had your dad. I mean, he was close enough to touch, right? So, and a lot of people, a lot of listeners that we have don't have that, right? And so I want to highlight, because we always have the stories of dad not being involved, right? We
yeah,
highlight dad not being involved, deadbeat, I don't know where he is. But now I really want to highlight and point out, like, yo, I'm talking to somebody who had a
yeah,
father who was
yeah,
actively involved.
absolutely, absolutely. So, the first thing I'll say is, like I stated earlier, is what to do, what not to do, right? And so the what to do goes along with your question. If if my dad, I don't know what it feels like,
Come on,
Shon,
man.
to not have a father in my life. I don't know what it feels like, and now that he's gone, I know what it feels like.
Come
But
on.
he's gone. He's gone by nature, God's way, right? He passed on. So, but to have my father in my life, I wouldn't be half the person I am, because he was my model of what a man is, right? And so I didn't have to look to social media. I didn't have to look outside the house. I didn't have to look to the school system. I didn't have to look anywhere else to find a model, right, for what a man is. My dad taught me to be unique and not wear what everyone else is wearing.
Come on, man.
Dad taught me, to stand up like a man and go outside and cut the grass and be your own self and stop crying. My dad taught me that. And I don't care what anybody says, your mom can do a lot of work for you. Your mom can help you. A lot of athletes' moms have helped them,
Yeah.
but I will definitely say that nobody can model what a father can model to a son,
Come on.
right? And so I find myself more now speaking and talking and moving like my dad than ever before in my life. And I
Can I jump in?
appreciate. Go ahead.
I just want to say this real quick because you said something that's super powerful. Nobody can model what a father can model to his son, and I want it to be very clear to the listeners that that goes both ways.
Yep.
Not ju-
Absolutely.
that that's not just the good stuff.
That's right.
Ki-
Absolutely.
Kids do what you do more so than they do what you say. And
They
I want to say that to every father out there in fatherland. Kids do what you do more so than they do what you say. They
absolutely.
watch. They watching. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Oh no, you good. I concur with what you're saying, because
Hold up, Kev. I missed my point. I missed my moment. I missed my moment. I missed my moment. Hold up. Look. All right, there we go. There we go. He needed a horn. He needed a horn. He needed a horn. He needed a horn.
yeah,
Go.
absolutely. But man, it's so important to know that, I don't know how I would have turned out. I don't know how I would have turned out. My dad he pushed me in every way. He pushed me even when we did our first recording. He was like, "Man, you ain't gonna do that. that pushed me to prove to my dad that I could do it. That pushed me. And I impressed him so much with that first recording at Bountiful Love in 1999. I'll never forget it. My dad looked at me. He looked at the crowd because it was overpacked. He looked at the crowd. He looked at some of the artists that was there that was big time at the time. He looked at some of the musicians I had, and I pulled it off. The only person I cared about in that room that night was my father. You hear me? I only cared about what he thought. And when I got him up out his seat, I felt like I don't care what happened with this music at this point. My dad got up out of his seat and said, and he on the album, like I got him on the album right on a piece where he, you know, when he got up, he shouted a praise, and it's on the album, and I can remember it vividly on My Soul Is Aching on our first album. The music break, and he shouted out glory or hallelujah, one of them, and I was done. But I never talked about that to nobody, because when I got my dad to feel good about something that I have accomplished, I hadn't gone to school. I hadn't gone to college. I hadn't started the college or anything like that. So I was a musician at my dad's church. I wasn't doing a lot. And so when he got up out of his seat and showed me that praise, I was done. I didn't care about nobody else in the room. So I took off from there. I was like, man, shoot. However I can chase that Jason. Y'all hear what I'm saying? That was my Jason.
Come on, man.
It's making sure that I was showing my father that I could do it.
Come
and
on.
So to anybody that have their father, man, keep showing, keep doing your thing. Pleasing your father, in my opinion, is pleasing your God. Right.
Come on, man.
And so I'm not saying that I made my father a God, because I didn't, but a son,
it matters, man.
A son really looking up to his father, and his father saying, I'm pleased with you.
Come on, man.
I'm pleased with you. I'm happy about the things that you're doing. Before my dad died,
I got tissue in my office. Y'all tearing me up. Like,
before my dad died,
this is for clients. This is not.
Yeah, but before he died, that thing came full circle, Shon. It came full circle. He walked in my house, and he said, man, I just want to know how you feel about what your dad has accomplished. And I said, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you, Dad. You have reached a place where you want to be in this church. You are administrative assistant. You are working in the national church. That meant something to him. And so I said, man, I'm so proud of you. We so happy for you. We so happy for the accomplishments that you. And I'm like, in my head, in 1999, that's what I was longing for. But to have my dad come back to me after the things that I have accomplished in life, and he bought me a cashmere coat. He just said, I just wanted to do this for you, son, because I'm so proud of you. I'm so thankful for what you have done. Even though me and you haven't agreed on everything, I want you to know I love you and I appreciate everything you do. Man, I still got that picture.
Come on.
And I'm going to send it to y'all so y'all can see that picture. He was so happy to get me that coat, and I still got that coat, and I ain't never let it go. But it's just amazing. It's just amazing how we come full circle. And for my children, I want to be everything that my dad was and more.
Say that one again. Say that one again.
For my children, I want to be everything that my dad was to me and more.
See, what I need to highlight right there is that we are quick to say, I want to be everything that my dad wasn't.
Yeah.
I want you to. I want that to sink in.
Right. Like I said,
you didn't say I want to be the father that my father never. No, you saying, listen, man, I wanted to be what he was.
Yeah. Well, and Shon, that's good because it brings me back to a point we made last week when my dad. I was so mad at my dad. We was at the car dealership, and my car. I was picking up my car, and I had just paid $1,200. And he said, "Man, what you doing up here?" Because he had came up there because he was working with Don Williamson with something. And I said I had to pick up my car. I had something happened to my transmission or whatever. He said, "Why you ain't take it over to such? Why you ain't call me, man? Why you didn't call me? How much money you spent on?" It was $1,200, and I got mad on me like I'm a grown man. I'm married. I don't need you to tell me
Come
what to
on.
do. But,
Come on.
but to this day, I use the term he used with me. He said, "So you one of those Negroes that want to learn by bought learning.
Mm.
That's who you are, Kev." And he loved me. He was trying to tell me. He was trying to tell me you didn't have to do it this way, and it could have been done a different way. But because you want to be on your own and be your own man and do your own thing and feel like you don't need people, you're gonna spend a lot of money that way. And
Yeah.
so from that day, I had to get over my ego with that particular thing because I had to get over my ego with a lot of stuff. But that particular thing, I had to get over my ego and pick up the phone and call my dad and say, "Dad, we had some times I call my phone, phone. He sent me somewhere, and I was like, Nah, I ain't gonna work with that dude." But most of the time, it was something that helped me and that prospered me. And
Very
so
resourceful.
you
He had
always come back to you. Listen, you always come back to the Father, and I'm talking about my
yeah.
dad. I always end up coming back to my father after I done gone out there, prodigal son. I done gone out there, did it my way, even though some of the ways that I felt like I did was right. I always end up coming back to the source.
Come on.
He always had an answer, and if he didn't have an answer, he knew how to get you in contact with the
Right.
resource that had it.
That's right. And I
Every,
always
every
came back to my source. And so I want my children to come back to the source.
Come on, man.
I want my children to always feel like they can come back to the source, right? My daughter is turning 18 Saturday.
Wow.
And we celebrating her 18th birthday, and she want to spend all my money, have a brunch and all this stuff, and then she want to go out, do her thing, and so, I didn't really get to do that because we had church and I had to do stuff, so there are some things, like I said, I guess the thing for the day for me is what to do and
yeah.
what not to do. But
Man.
all was a blessing because now I'm able to show my child something that I wasn't able to do at that particular age.
Man.
And so, and I say that only just to say that I'm still the source.
Come on,
She
man.
got a job, she working. I'm still the source. I'm still
Same.
trying to make a way for my children and get them to college. I told my kids what Shaq told his kids. You 2 degrees or no cheese, right? Like if you want what I got saved up for you, there's some things you have to finish first. And so I'm able to do the what to do, what not to do with my
Man.
children because of what my dad taught me in his life.
That's so dope, man. That's so dope, man. So, man, Kev, this, I know we coming down to the wire, man. But you brought something up, man, that was extremely powerful. That I experienced a few years ago with my father about telling me how he is proud of me. My dad didn't know how to say it, right? But in his actions, I knew that's what he was saying. I was laying in the bed with my wife, and my dad walked in the room, and we was about to go to sleep. He sat at the edge of the bed, and his back was to me. He took his hand and just laid it on me, just like this, just laid it on me, tapped me, got up, and walked out.
But you knew.
I knew exactly. He was saying, I don't know how to say this.
Yeah.
But I need to say it, and I'm going to say it in the way that I only know how to say it. Brother, I bawled like a baby in the bed with my wife laying next to me
Wow.
because I knew he was proud of me, but it wasn't until that moment that I knew that he was, because I needed to hear it.
Yeah.
I
But
needed to hear it.
and your experience, Shon, is I feel like no matter where we are with our father, your experience is like my experience when I recorded. When my dad jumped up and started giving God praise. That was your dad putting his hand on you, right? Like, we all have our experiences. And I'm gonna say this to you. I had that experience when it comes to my dad not telling me for a long period of time that he proud of me. Like, I had that experience as well, because he wanted me to, he was in a space in his life.
Yep.
And so trying to make things happen in his life. And remember, my dad lost a kidney. I kidney. I was happy to do it. I mean, that was another, moment where I can look at my dad and I helped him, right? And so, that was something else we had together. I gave him my kidney, and it started to be, no matter where we are with each other, I love you. Like, it was some moments of no talking. I would come to church sometime, go right on the organ and play. I don't, we was upset with each other. I ain't even want to talk to him. But I did that service. I love you. I love you. But brother, you got on my nerve for the last 2 months, right? But I'm
co-signing again. I was there.
I love you.
Cause y'all were knuckleheads.
Hey, been there, done that, brother. I always wanted to see my father proud of the son that God gave him. I even did it. I even took it so much in 2019. My brother Jamar and my dad were both in our fraternity, Phi Eta Psi, and I wanted that with my dad. I wanted that with my dad. No matter what I've gone through in my life, I always wanted the man, the BG. We called him the BG. The booty. His name in the street was Booty Green. Yeah. But I always we that's what we call him, the BG, because that was his name in the street. But I always wanted to see my father proud of the things that he either gave to me as duty, or things that I was doing in my life. And so I'm like, my dad, and he brought his fraternity brothers to church. I said, what? I am not in a fraternity brother with my dad. Like, what am I doing? So I did that. And when I came to church and I had crossed the burning sands, I gave him the handshake, the secret handshake. And he was like, man, what you doing? What you doing? And it was a proud moment for me.
Wow.
And I cried right in his arms, right at church before we started church, because I gave him the secret handshake and he was proud of me, right? He was a proud moment. So you're going to always return back to the Father. And I want my children, if I was to say anything else about your question, is I want my children to always see their father as their superhero.
That's good.
Right. Yeah. But I also want them to know I'm human. And so I've shared mistakes with my children. I've shared situations that I've gone through, situations that me and my wife has gone through. We've shared some of those things, not everything, but we've shared some of those things with our children so that they can understand we're human like they are.
I love it.
But I'm still gonna rip off the shirt and be Superman when they need me to.
I love it. So as we close, we got our legit or not legit, and Kev gave us this legit or not legit for this week. But but George, before we go, what would you say you are most proud of Kev?
Kev is resilient, and when I say that, I mean his bounce back is crazy. Like, no matter what he went through, you know what I'm saying? No matter what he went through, no matter what's been said, dirt thrown on his name, stuff like that. Kev always lands on top. And I'm talking 25 years, Kev, somewhere in there, he always lands on top. You can't listen, people check out. And I'm not, I'm just saying people check out and they just accept. Kev don't accept. Kev, you know what I'm saying? Kev, he regroup. You know what I'm saying? He regroup and he adjusts and he always lands on top. And that's what I'm the most proud of. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's a couple things and I won't share that he told me he was gonna do maybe 10 years ago. It might not even been that. And he did them, and he did it. And I'm talking about great things. I'm talking about positive things. He said, and you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying, a few of them, you know what I'm saying, because we were shared in conference, but he said, this is my goal. And he never not hit a goal. He, in my experience, he never not, if he say he gonna do it, it's gonna get done. So that would be mine.
I love it, man. And I asked that question on purpose, right? Is because we as men need to celebrate one another. And I know you two have a great relationship. And sometimes we don't share with each other. And I know you, George, you don't have a problem sharing, but I wanted you to model what we can do better as men of celebrating one another. Right. For sure. And so the moment that I asked you that, you didn't hesitate. Right.
Oh, it's not even a question. He's one of the most resilient men I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with and coming across. So yeah, that's easy. Yeah. Kev gonna land on top. You know what I'm saying? And he gonna do it with skill. I'm not talking about like with charm or manipulation or anything like that. He's gonna learn. Let me just tell a story. You asked this question. We took a test 20 years ago. And I'll never forget it. This was a test when we started in education together. And Kev had some stuff going on where he didn't do so well on that test. And we got there that day, and Kev turned around and looked at me, and he was like, ain't no way. He was like, ain't no way. And I'm telling you, like we used to ride to work together. Every morning, I would get there because I would get dropped off to ride to work. He's sitting at the computer, and he's studying. And he's studying like that's all he did. I don't know if it was a month, 2 months, 3 months, or whatever. He did, and he went back and he mastered it. And that's what he do. He don't accept failure. Man. He don't.
Thank you. That's true. I remember that story because I was soft.
Yeah.
No, I'm not finna fail this.
He turned around. We wasn't in that, boy. It was like a 4-hour test. We went in there 20 minutes. He turned around like, ain't no way. Yeah. And but he made one. That's my point.
Well, I want to know if he failed this test. Well, the legit or not legit this week is it legit or not legit to eat off your partner's table at dinner? Listen, we going out to dinner, we going out to eat, right? You can order your own stuff.
Yeah.
So my question is, and Kev gave this to us this week.
we talk about significant others. That's what we talking about.
Yeah, we talk about significant others.
Okay, all right.
It's not legit, bro. Like you can't. You could have ordered this.
Yeah.
You could have ordered what I got on my plate. I want what's on my plate. You order what you wanted. Now, if we came to an agreement that I got a plate and I'm gonna get this, and then you gonna get this, and we gonna both share. Then we come to that agreement. But don't do it, and we ain't talked about this, and you just, your hands in my plate. Not legit, bro. Not legit.
Oh my God. Listen, he flat out saying it's not legit. So he is saying, oh man, Chuck Hill said it's not legit. Chuck, now, your wife must not be watching, Chuck. I was just away with you guys. And your wife, Lisa, where you at? Lisa!
Legit,
George, I need to hear. Is it legit or not legit?
It's not legit. It's not legit for all of the reasons that Kev said. Like, if we had an agreement, like, okay, we can swap. We're going to do half and half. Shon, there's no reason for it. Like, there's literally no reason for it. You had the opportunity. Or especially if you don't get nothing. That's what I really don't like. I'm not hungry or something like that. And then I get something. And then you going in like that. That's not going to work. That's not legit.
About that too is your hands always find a way in my plate when I'm about to put my fork in it. Like, dude, like, what are you doing? I mean, I have already sized up my mind to take in what's on my plate, and here you go. So no, not legit. Even on my anniversary, it's not legit.
Oh, wifey is wifey is in the building. Listen, wifey is in the building. Renisha said, "I'ma still eat off that plate no matter what." So you can say not legit all you want. Yo, I asked my wife when you sent that the other day. When you sent that, I was like, "Babe, hey, listen." I was a little punk. I was like, "Don't you know Kev had the nerve to send his legit this week? Talk about food that is not legit for the wives to eat off the plates." She is like, "It's legit. It's legit." I'm like, I know, babe. I know it is.
And that face she gave you, like, what is he talking about? And what are you talking about? You shouldn't be repeating. That's the face she gave you.
Oh my gosh, man. Listen, Kev, this was awesome, man. I'm so glad that we were able to come back and do this, man. So glad we was able to come back and close out with you, man. Man, this is beautiful, man. I appreciate all the work that you are doing, man. I love your heart. I love what you shared with us, with all of the listeners tonight, man. I know people are going to be impacted by it. And so, man, I just want to tell you, man, I appreciate you, all the work that you do, man. You are a great man of integrity, you know, man of honor, man. I respect you, bro. Wife just hopped on. She said, because I'm eating off your plate, period. Babe, how you gonna do that when I'm in the midst of pouring my heart out? But yes, you can always eat off my plate, baby.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I said it last week, but I just want to say it again. I want to reiterate: if Christianity is your faith, because this is Father's Heart podcast, Flint and the surrounding areas. Bountiful Love is a safe space for men, and I say that because if you look at all the statistics and different things around the country, men don't really go to church like that. You have churches with a lot of women, but for men that's looking for a safe place, Mindful Love is a safe place for me. I just want to say that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Appreciate that.
Kev, I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely.
Let's get this work.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate y'all having me, and great conversation. It even has affected me tonight to reminisce and think about some of the things that I can even do better as a father, because we are lifelong learners. So we don't stop learning, right? We lifelong learners. We don't stop learning. I'm still learning how to be the best father I can be. And so I appreciate all the work that you all do, you know, and I'm looking forward to the work that we're going to do, George, in this year. And Shon, the work we're going to continue to do this year. So we'll be in touch and have me back again. You know, we can
Absolutely.
I appreciate this stress reliever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yo, you go love on that wife and those kids, man.
Yeah, share your plate on anniversary, bro. I'm just gonna say that. Share your plate on anniversary. Like that's a
not legit. That's all I got to say.
Peace.
Peace.